I'm going to read to you today from my new book about to be released, Right Side Up: How to Stand Upright in an Upside Down World. This book contains spiritual healing tools for people who are interested in knowing simple ways to adjust your ways of thinking, your ways of being for maximum spiritual growth. These tools don't come lightly. This has been over a lifetime of study and work. And for the first time, I'm sharing them at the behest of my spiritual guides who instructed me to put this out. I was writing historical fiction and about global politics, and I hadn't really thought of myself as a spiritual self help author. I didn't really have that impetus, but they said, no, you've got to put it out because you have a way of addressing this subject and sharing tools that no one else has. This information is needed at this time. Previous books have taken me a very long time to write. So my first concern was you'd say this is needed now. Now, the guides, the spirit guides, our teachers, our ascended masters, and so forth who are dealing with us, they don't have the same sense of time or any sense of time since that's an earthly construct. Most of the time, my writing does take a lot of effort, and I haven't been before this an especially fast writer. They said not to worry about it. I've shared this with my associate, Jane Donovan, who's a wonderful self-help coach and a known love coach in Australia where she lives. She's also my good friend. I said, I don't know what to do. And she said, you know so much more than you think you know. Let me help you. She started asking me questions, and that helped get the ball rolling. Basically, I found a system at that point. A question would arise. I'd walk around my lake by my house with my dog. I'd ask the question and I'd start to dictate in my phone, and the answers just flew in. They were right. I didn't need to worry about time. Been through the publishing process. My publisher, Aurelian Press, publishes unique, spiritually oriented, forward thinking concepts, that sort of thing. They're at Aurelian.com. Don't know if they're open for submissions yet, but that is coming. I'm going to read the preface. Please stick by me. You might find some things really worthwhile. You could call me a rebel. I don't really listen to anyone. There's a small handful of people on social media who provide good information, who I give credence to sometimes. I definitely do not listen to anyone positioning themselves as a know-it-all. I don't listen to gurus or really anyone who calls himself a guru or whom other people follow in a cult-like way. There is information out there. There's important information. It's just we all have to be very careful about what seeps into our consciousness. But it's very important for us to stick with those whom we resonate energetically. As this world of information gets increasingly dense and confusing with contradictory lines of thought and lies and obfuscations, this side, white hats, black hats, spiritual gurus, non-spiritual gurus, psychological counselors, and then tomorrow this one's revealed as having ties to Israel, and this one's revealed as having deep state connections or BlackRock's funding them, or you never, ever can trust anything but your own sense of inner guidance. And that's why I started the book, why I did, explaining that I don't really listen to anyone, meaning what I do listen to is my own heart and my own sense of what is true. Moving on. I didn't listen in high school. I don't listen to schools of thought, particularly when it comes to spirituality. I have reasons for this. We'll go into it more as we go on. I don't attend spirituality classes and have not taken a course in Ascension or manifesting. Nothing wrong with those if you resonate with the instructor. A lot of people have been helped that way. My mom did enroll me in a spirituality class when I was 12 on Long Island. Shelley Dumas was her name. She was a wonderful teacher. She passed on now. She's also a wonderful psychic. Do I have the benefit of learning from two amazing spiritual teachers? Yes, I do. Those would be my mom and dad. My dad was an engineer who brought the left side of the brain to the equation. My mom is completely intuitive and psychic and tapped into the other side, whereas my dad was very analytical, very much your definition of the divine masculine, and my mom, the definition of the divine feminine. So you've got the two halves, and together they presented a really good background for me and for thousands because they had the longest running alternative radio show in America. It ran for 35 years. That was called the Joyce Keller Show out of the GBB radio station in Babylon, New York. Anyway, moving on. They were on a trajectory of learning that I benefited from. They had desire for information centered on spiritual growth and personal health. That was a huge upbringing in natural cures, how to read your body, how to know what it needed, how to feed it properly, how to stay out of the pharmaceutical morass, and so forth. Through trial and error, they came to look to the teachings primarily of Edgar Cayce, Paramahansa Yogananda, Erlene Cheney, that was Astara. Those are the mystery schools. A lot of this is out there now. You'll find people like Billy Carson talking very intelligently about the mystery schools. That was a lot of hidden information for a long time. Not anymore. Masters of the Far East by Barrett Sparling and very many others. Dr. Raymond Moody, Ruth Montgomery, and so forth. These were the forerunners of what we call the spiritual movement. Some people call it the New Age movement, but many of you now know that the New Age movement was infiltrated and many channelers were being fed the wrong information. Plus, a lot of people took a hard left into this movement, losing their footing, losing their grounding. What this book does is bring you back to center. How to control your own ascension process, how to instigate it, how to create it, how to make it happen in your own time, in your own way, as fast or slow as you want it to happen. Not only that, it's very grounded. It was important that I had this upbringing with both a very left brain and a very right brain individual, because the result is that I am very balanced. I put a lot of store into analytical thought, a lot of store into real research, and I will do a YouTube on how to conduct real research, because that is a lost art since the internet started for most of us around the mid-90s. It started out as a wealth of information, but it has gotten increasingly convoluted, and good information has been obfuscated, hidden, censored. It's really difficult, but it's not impossible. And of course, there's things called books and libraries, which do still have good information, if not 100% truthful or perfect. My parents had no limits. No limits on their quest for understanding the spiritual universe and our parts in it. We went to yoga camps as kids, and some of you may know Lilydale and Silverbell. I went to psychics all over the place. I had a really good understanding of what a good psychic is and what a bad psychic is, and what good information is and what bad information is. My parents didn't like anything fake, overly mysterious, stupidly expensive, or anything that had at its basis ego. If somebody, supposedly a spiritual teacher, is ego-based, how could they possibly be teaching you techniques when they haven't learned them themselves? How can they possibly tell you how to improve your spiritual understanding and growth when they haven't mastered the most basic of concepts? And that is ego. And we do go into that, and it's way easier than you think. I have the world's simplest, easiest to implement technique to dissolve the false ego, the ego that's holding us back. I have been using it for years. I made it up. This is one of the things Jane pulled out of me, because she'd been in meetings with me for years as we were developing, and still are, the new media for the new world. Not the new world order, but our world. It's a simple technique. That's just one of many that I'm going to be sharing with you. So they didn't like anything money-based, ego-based, or unduly mysterious. There was this one guru who's still extremely famous today. In fact, he was just one of many. Any name that you see out there, we probably have a story about. But this one particular one, very expensive. They went to a seminar, and before the seminar was over, everyone was pulling out their checkbooks to write $1,000 checks to join this, what became a cult. During the seminar, there had been mind programming. My parents are immune to that, as am I hope, although I have detected programming throughout my life that I've purged. That's another part of the book. What is so very important is identifying and purging programming. We all have it. Some of us are less easily mind controlled than others, but we're still holding on to programs. Programs within programs within programs within programs. That's really important. Learning how to figure out what a program is, get rid of it, and put something substantial and real in its place. That's called authenticity. Like I said, there were psychic fairs, yoga camps, spiritual camps, and every psychic within a 1,500-mile radius. And I was just joking there, because we saw psychics beyond 1,500 miles of our home. This foray into the supernatural taught me the immense value of discernment and of keeping your mind open. You're doing both at once. You're both being aware of what's definitely not truthful, and yet staying open and understanding that just because it's not something you're familiar with doesn't mean it's untrue. So there's discernment, but also staying open. There was one psychic, you may know of him. We'll call him Irwin. This goes back to before the World Trade Centers or as they were being built. And he was at our house all the time because he was an excellent spiritual teacher. And my parents learned a lot from him. When he saw the towers go up, he went like this with his fingers down, down. He didn't know when, or maybe he did. He just didn't say at the time, but he knew they were coming down. I've millions of those incidents in my life. My mom also very good at predicting things. I'm going to do another aside here. So when the towers did come down, I'm a New Yorker, and funny story is that my parents moved into the shadow of the World Trade Center 2 weeks before the attacks. They were sent there. They had bought an apartment, beautiful apartment that they loved, and it's something they had worked a lifetime toward. They even took us up to the roof, and we saw the World Trade Centers right over our head. It was amazing. Then we had a baby shower that we all had to leave for, and we went our various ways, so no one was in the apartment when the attacks came. That's an amazing story in and of itself, which my mom tells in a book or two. My point is this: after the attacks, we can argue what the physical cause was there thermalite in the buildings? Were there planes? Did it implode? My dad, the engineer, immediately said, no way were there planes. Those imploded from the inside. Like I do with everything, I tried to find out the spiritual reasons behind our event. We have spiritual reasons behind everything, behind COVID, behind Project Lockstep, behind everything that we experience. There is a spiritual reason. If you look at that throughout your life, number one, it helps lighten the load immensely. It takes away confusion. You can see clearly on a spiritual side how that is actually doing something. In this case, I said, Mom, what on earth? Why did this happen? This Pearl Harbor event, why on earth will we be experiencing this? I was quite young and a little naive, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. She said, because it's opened the world's heart center. The heart chakra of the earth has been opened. And soon enough, love and well-wishing and just sharing of the heartbreak poured in from across the globe. If you look at that, because of course, it's very, very distressing what happened. And we were seeing reports every day of this fireman, that policeman, that policeman had left the planet. If you look at it from that aspect, and also that these people who were in the buildings had on some level agreed, then you can begin to understand, and it will greatly alleviate the sadness and the burden. So the psychic adventures with my mom and dad, which were tons of fun, by the way, very much fun, because throughout my life, I got to meet some really amazing psychics and got some wonderful readings. It taught us, particularly my brother and I, the difference between light and dark. I can't really speak for him, but it taught me the difference between light and dark, because we were in the presence of a lot of powerful psychics, but a lot of them were dark. Now, as a kid, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know light and dark, the forces of good versus evil. I didn't even believe that there was a satanic element on this planet. I only believed in good. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that some of these psychics were dark. I didn't want to be in their presence. That may have been the start of my energetic reading, my energy reading, our ability to detect energy, which began as a child. I was very fortunate to be exposed to that. It's helped me a lot, especially now, where we are in this planet right now, where we need to be able to discern at the drop of a hat whether something's for our benefit or not. Information as well as any given situation or individual that we come in contact with. So my parents questioned everything, as I do, and I question even their philosophies. I question the masters, not because their wisdom is faulty, but because the needs and understanding and capabilities of humanity are evolving. Also, our ability to utilize and assimilate information, especially complicated information, is declining. It's not necessarily a bad thing. We're moving ahead at a very, very rapid rate. Instead of reading and trying to comprehend convoluted or complicated or dense thought, we are grasping the essence of things in an ever-evolving, faster manner. Humanity's changing. That information, the way it was delivered, the way it was written, needs to evolve also. That's my point there. I'm not denigrating any true brilliance and wisdom with that evolving level of thought. dangers are magnifying. We are on an all-out war between good and evil on this planet. All-out war on every level. If you can't see it, you will. It's here. We're in it. Even if you don't think you're fighting it, you are on some level fighting it. Another thing I do in this book is equip you to fight that war. It's not that you have to pick up a sword or do battle. You don't even have to go out there and tout the wisdom you know. It's more of how to internally equip yourself as you do that, how to then affect everybody else around you in a very positive way. This is not meant to spread fear. I am anti-fear on every level. The more you know, the better action you can take. You do not have to be brought down by the truths of this world or depressed or to have your foundations crumble. Although they'll crumble a little bit, but in a good way, in a healthy way. The more you heal your inner and outer worlds, the further you will go to help win this war for both yourself, your family, for the world around you. The fact that we are here now, you, me, our friends and loved ones, the fact that we are here now is because we chose to be here. We're here for this epic battle. You want to either observe it or be in it. That's up to you. There's no right or wrong there. But you're here. You're here for it. We arrived. We arrived for this. A lot of us are indigo children or star children or needed from other planets to help humanity win, to help God win. However you choose to see God, God, source, the universe, however you choose, universal creator, the universal force of good. We're here on that side to help win, and we will win. We've already won. We do talk about timelines later on, but for now, people like to say we're on the timeline where God wins. Yes, we are. We are. And the timeline merely means our particular trajectory and goal. You don't have to get confused by science fiction-y talk. We are on the pathway to win. However, it'd be helpful to you, to all of us, to have certain tools in our quiver so that we can protect ourselves, our loved ones, and our world around us. Not just protect, but equip. Everything I have relayed in this book, all techniques, fixes, shortcuts, wisdoms, and truths come from direct experience. I may be unique in that. Of course, I picked up things along the way. In my acknowledgments, I do talk about the many sources of wisdom that have come to me, and I've been very fortunate to be exposed to these sorts of schools of thought. I don't go into the full array, but I will tell you this, everything's filtered and synthesized, and it comes out in a way that I hope is very useful and easily assimilated. Speaking of useful and assimilated, there are times when you just have to put your analytical brain on hold and to feel into something. When coming in contact with new concept, it may be hard to get your head around. What you need to do is feel into it. Put that brain aside for just a second and feel it. Feel the words. It's a very good experiment. Once you can feel it and understand it on a subliminal level, you can use it. Now, if you just read it and say, okay, I get that and move on, you're not bringing it into your being. It's a really important distinction. Words are cheap. What counts is whether something works and whether it works for you. And that goes for everything in this book. I do believe this will help quite a number of people. Like I said, maybe synthesized through me, but it doesn't necessarily come just from me. I work a lot with the Arcturians and many other master teachers who prefer to be known as the collective. So I won't name them here. Going on, you won't find any arbitrary repeating of concepts, truths, or laws here, only methods that work that I have uncovered through real-life experience and personal discovery. My guides, who stand by with answers at all times, have helped assemble and define the ideas contained here. They are also the ones who urged me to write this book. They had made it clear I was to release a book clarifying spiritual concepts and to help people transform into their highest best self. It was particularly important for this time that we are in that this information was to come out. I was to deliver this book in a clear, easy to follow, no nonsense way. I said, how on earth am I supposed to do that? In what? A couple of months? My previous writings had taken far longer to complete. This love book, which will be released later this year, took years. That's because I delved down deep, deep, deep into truths. It's a novel, I hope, a very beautiful novel. In that novel, I delved into the deliberate destruction of a country and how it was taken down from the outside, contrary to what we were told in the headlines. That's why it took a long time to write. My guide said not to worry, they would take care of that, and sure enough, they provided a straight downpour of information every time I asked. I could get this to occur by walking around the lake near my home with my dog. And my phone is a recorder. That's key. Words fly out as I dictate the answer. Other times, like when I'm running a meeting or in conversation with somebody or in the dream state, especially if there's an issue at hand, a question, or some change of direction that's necessary, sometimes a very obscure word will pop into my brain and it will deliver the exact concept that is needed at that moment. That's a little game we play because they know I like words. A lot of times I'll wake up in the middle of the night with a word and I'll write it out. One time I remember that happening. It was hawthorn. I looked it up. Hawthorn berries helps with heart condition. My mom was, it's going back quite a while, had an issue that was needed to address. I can't even express how many times that's happened. So as you now know, my background could be considered peculiar. I stand as an iconoclast, although I do choose at times to blend in. The reasons for this are similar to that of the collective. Information, vibration, truth, your brand of personal authenticity are more readily accepted when you meet others at their own level. I am different in other ways as well. I can't be told something, for I will not absorb or accept it. Instead, I have to feel it. I thought this was due to stubbornness, but as I matured, I became grateful for this tool that was soon integrated into my progress. And we'll talk about that because, as I said, it's quite important. By feeling into a concept, you can utilize it without effort. It's what I call assimilation, the absorption of information that becomes integral to your being. In other words, through feeling, concepts become part of your nature. This is not to put down analysis. As a writer-researcher, I am greatly analytical. But when learning a new concept, it is important best to feel it. Everything found in this book comes from my own process, every single thing. It's not an amalgam of spiritual ascendance or awakening theory. It is the result of years of effort and integration, as well as distillation of complex ideas into simple truths. I use effort loosely because most of it flowed as I pushed forward in my pursuit of truth. I never knowingly embarked on the path of ascension, and yet I have been on it since birth. What I thought I was on was the perpetual quest for truth and authenticity. This was my driving force, coupled with the intense outrage I felt and still feel over injustice and destruction of innocence or good hearts. I dislike injustice in all its forms. I won't use the word hate because, as we discussed, everything, absolutely everything, has a spiritual or, let's say, unknown purpose that you can uncover if you look hard enough. The acceptance of the unknown order of things eventually integrates into your personality. This holds true for other concepts as well, such as how to embody humor, love, lightness, and joy. These are abstract concepts and cannot be pursued on their own. Let me repeat this. These are abstract concepts, and despite what people say, they cannot be pursued on their own. It is the outcome of your burgeoning spiritual development. They are the benefit of the path that drives you. So instead of pursuing happiness, for example, pursuing the path of personal integrity and authenticity provides happiness as a byproduct, or uniting with your sacred love provides happiness and joy as a byproduct, even bliss. Is your path a quest for truth? Is it a path for justice? For me, it was both of those things. For you, maybe it's self-betterment. Maybe you are motivated by the desire to eradicate all the trauma that you have experienced, as so many of us have experienced. Trauma has at its basis a root spiritual cause, and you can purge it. You do not have to be defined by your trauma. You could even say right now, as you're listening to this, I am done. I am no longer traumatized. I will get to the bottom of issues, but I'm no longer experiencing trauma or fear. You can say that right now. That's a good, excellent start. Basically, you'll find your motivational force, whatever that is. Maybe it's a desire to help others. Maybe it's just a desire for knowledge. Not to say just, because desire for knowledge is all important. The way this book is written is different from others. It's not meant to be a highly organized and strict how-to, although I do have that as a follow-up because I realize that for some people, these concepts can be quite new. So it would be helpful to have a workbook and a journal if you desire to help work through them or not, up to you. This book flows and meshes and follows a river of understanding. This is how it was given to me and how I was directed to deliver it to you. It's a fun river, I hope, as the ideas, some of which are presented in different ways, take hold. As this occurs, what changes do they bring within? What bells go off as you land upon something that resonates with you? That resonance, when it comes, should be isolated and cherished. That is your leaping off point as this occurs. What changes do they bring within? What bells go off as you land upon something that resonates with you? Read this book, not as a primer or a textbook, but as a discussion. Because that's what it was. It was a discussion with me and my spiritual teachers, who are your spiritual teachers, who are our spiritual teachers. From time to time, my interviewer, the lovely and brilliant Jane Donovan, pops in because many of these ideas needed to be solidified and isolated. I didn't even know sometimes that I had the key to something because I created these techniques. I was utilizing them and people were, why? What? So Jane helped bring them out. They were hidden aspects of my being. I had so integrated them into my personality, they were difficult to pinpoint. In other words, my quest for truth, justice, and authenticity had generated self-development shortcuts that I did not myself always perceive until the beautiful being of Jane pointed them out to me. That being said, my quest has been a painful process at times, encompassing the dark night of the soul, that enormous wall of despair that threatens to engulf you until you come out on the other side. The most difficult moments spent with my twin flame, she'll talk about twin flames later, combined with the discovery of the worst, most hidden, dark secrets of the shadow world that has been inflicting grief on humanity, created grief. But I moved through it. It was a major turning point for me, or what I consider my true point of embarkation. In other words, this is where my journey really began, because as I traveled down to the pits of child trafficking and Luciferian worship, satanic ritual abuse, and all these horrible practices, demonic behavior inflicted on the most innocent, I wondered how the world could ever pull itself up and out of this. I knew it would not do so without our help, all our help. Instead of taking me down, it quadrupled my conviction. I became indomitable, and so can you. I refocused my direction into bringing awareness to these things. It has taken years of pouring effort into these ends. Some wrong turns, let's not say wrong, but detours, ended in what appeared to be dead ends. During this time, I produced 60 plus Lane Explains videos. Some you can still find on Rumble in the Life Source channel. I'll provide that link. They were all taken down by the YouTube bots, including the people who had subscribed. I've been taken down from everywhere. TikTok's banned me twice, taken down 2 channels. I gave up for a while and then I came back because a lot of people are listening and it's important. It's important to try to reach as many people as possible. I'll tell you a funny story. Even recently, as I'm moving more in the spiritual realm of things, which should not be censored, we're not talking about cancer or COVID, who's evil, we're not mentioning names. I did a piece on the divine feminine, taken down twice, not once, but twice. Finally, it was retitled and now it's up. See if you can find it. It's on my channel. I forgot what it's called. Got to fool the bots, apparently. Over the past several years, I've done ongoing podcasts with my mom called The Arcturians, and also a series called Talking Galactic. You can find those also on the Life Source channel. I've done documentaries on child trafficking, FDA cover-ups. I've written many, many things. I've created, with the help of like thinkers, a network of truth-bearing documentary producers. As we move into this new paradigm, who's going to be delivering the media? That's what we're working on. Been working on that for quite some time. In fact, the Arcturians delivered a plan for that, a business plan in 2015. I've worked with various humanitarian groups. Some of the names would shock you. Very well known. I was in the inner circle, particularly one, which turned out to be demonic. I left as soon as their true colors were shown. I gave them the benefit of doubt too long. That splintered into 2 groups, actually more than that, but 2 groups that still have many followers. Remember, I was schooled in how to detect dark, and I still fell for it. So those of you who have fallen for it, There's very many out there, gurus and so forth. Don't don't kick yourself. They're tricky. They're very, very tricky. But you must rely on your own best instinct. And if something's saying something's not right here, don't dismiss it. Learn to grab that little teeny weeny nugget of discomfort, maybe just a fleeting thought, and then you dismiss it because you feel that they're doing good work and you want to be part of it. And there's excitement in other people. And oh, how could they be wrong when so many people follow them? When your little tiny voice inside is saying, that's the voice to listen to. Okay, eventually, and probably because of these episodes, see, everything has a reason. I knew I had to stop relying on others because that's what I was doing. I was putting others in front of myself, saying they said it better, or they were a better front man, or they delivered the message better, or they did this, or they did that. And eventually, when I was smacked in the face hard enough by that last group that was proven ridiculously evil, and those who were around for the inception of life source know who I'm talking about, I realized I had to come out on my own. Yeah. Maybe that was the purpose. Maybe that was the purpose of this whole long train of events. So this recognition was part of my growth process. When I broke free of the last of these groups, I knew I would never put my energy behind someone else again, but would forge forth solely, if I had to, using my own voice and garnering whatever energies I could muster into the force for good and positive change. At that time of breaking free, we're talking about the last group now, several stalwart souls surged forward with me. They knew, as I did, the time for change had come. It had more than come. It was very much upon us, and that we had the knowledge, tools, and passion to help it transpire. Life Source was created, and multiple trajectories shot off from there. Bright Mind Media, the National Media Alliance, all sorts of brewing projects, getting us ready for the new paradigm, the new world, not the New World Order, the one where humanity is in control. There's another faction that must be identified here. I mentioned them before, the Arcturians. You've got to choose, they say, meaning you've got to choose the side of ascension. These loving, brilliant souls are working with us, working with many people on the planet right now. We have a particular connection. They came and visited me in 2017 physically. My dad had just passed, and my mom and I were sleeping on the floor of her condo on the Hudson River. There was a little balcony out over the river, and they came in their spaceship, our blue friends. My mom said they tried to take me, but I don't think so. I think they just wanted to talk to me. So I was in the sleep state. They said we had work to do, and they had been working with me for some time, but this was the first time they had come in physical form. We've been working closely. A lot of what I deliver in this book and also other information comes from them. It's so assimilated into my being that I'm not always able to pinpoint what's theirs and what's mine, but I can sometimes. And I know when it's coming direct from them, and other times it's just part of my way of being. We've been receiving downloads, all sorts of information coming to us. So who's to say what anyone is delivering is theirs or given to them from these higher galactic forces for the side of good? They want us to succeed. They love us. Now, a lot of people say interdimensional species don't know how to love, but I assure you they love us and they want us to win. They want us to fully, I'm trying to get the right words right now. They want us to fully realize who we are and to develop into our highest best selves. They want us and the earth. They want us to live up to our highest potential. And it's hard for them because we don't understand their concepts. They don't understand ours. They deliver their information as best they can, but it doesn't always relate in earth terms. A lot of times you'll hear people channeling the Arcturians and the stuff that's delivered. While it's amazing, it's not really usable information. And I know that the way I work with them is I can interpret it into usable information. And I'm not putting any channelers down. Trust me, I love them and I honor them for bringing this information forward. I'm just saying my job is a little different. So you're not going to get word for word channelings from me. You're going to get useful, practical information that can be assimilated and utilized. So it comes down to the choice. Do you choose to live an authentic life that is free of harm to yourself and others? Yes? Then that is the choice. For we create our own paradise, a world we were meant to have all along, a world that is right side up. The longer we are in a higher vibration, the more we get to associate with people vibrating at the same frequency, or in other words, who are like us. And by that, I mean authentic, truth seeking, doers of good, lovers of humanity. These are not boring concepts, by the way. You still can have all of that and lead a very fulfilling, exciting life. In fact, the life gets even more exciting and more fulfilling as you level up. So anyway, ascension, because a lot of people are talking about that word. Ascension is merely a way of being that eliminates strife and unhappiness. I swear to you, you do not need to experience grief, unhappiness, suffering. These are choices. Now, terrible things happen. We experience torture at times, especially the MK Ultra satanic ritual abuse people, the prisoners of war in and of itself. All of these are catastrophic, traumatic events. And of course, just in what's considered normal, you have things like incest, you have neglect, you have abuse, or even milder forms of trauma like a breakup or a death. That's not mild, but death. We all have to experience that. It's how you perceive it and how you work through it that's going to bring you to the other side as quickly as possible. You do not need to dwell in unhappiness, mourning, grief, sadness. You do need to work through these things, and some things way more than others. Absolutely. I'm not saying there's a magic pill you can take for that. You have to work it through. But the amount of suffering and grief you experience, it's up to you. And that's the truth. And how do you utilize it? How do you move forward with it? That's what this book is about. I've never yearned for peace on earth. Exactly. I always wondered why at Christmas time or the holidays we always talk about peace on earth. And we had the song when we were growing up, peace on earth. I forgot how it went, but it didn't make sense to me. Yeah, peace on earth. It sounds great. I love it. What a wonderful concept. I yearned for truth. And as I grew further into my own development, I yearned for people to awaken from this nightmare scenario, from this movie that we're in, and to see who's creating the wars and division. We are not divided. We do not need to be divided. We are one humanity. Our fight is against the controllers who would prefer we did not develop into our fullest, best, and highest, most manifesting, most supremely powerful and godlike selves. So what's the best weapon? Not to use war analogy. So what's the best tool? That's the intent of this book, to give you those tools. Going back to 2015 and the earlier visits by the Arcturians, they delivered a plan for the new world, the new paradigm. I was in the middle of writing something else entirely. And I remember this was sitting on my couch on the Delaware River, and they literally told me, stop what you're doing and pick up that pad that was sitting next to me. And I started to write, and they delivered it like that. And it's this comprehensive plan. It seems overly simple. I call it the Arcturian Blueprint for Humanity. Basically, it is a comprehensive plan that addresses very many of society's issues all in one. It's quite brilliant. So they started delivering these plans in 2015. They told me soon it will be time to develop this blueprint as the world emerges into the new paradigm. We weren't quite ready for it. I don't want to be the sole proprietor of this plan. I would hope that very many people would develop it and keep the integrity of it and stay true to its intent. They'll offer some coursework, some live sessions in order to develop these plans. For now, if you want to read it, I got it. But before this new paradigm could be implemented, deceptively simple paradigm, the related philosophies and knowledge had to come out. Hence the book. The book is the foundation for growing into this new world, for implementing this new world, and for understanding it. What did I want the world to know? Jane then asked me. Having heard the story, I said, I don't have a clue. And she said, yes, you do. I have the kind of brain that puts things into organizational patterns, but I didn't want to adhere to a limiting formal structure. So I invited the collective to speak, And to help this along, Jane asked me questions. From there, everything opened up. We went through many titles, Jane and I, The Rising of a New Humanity, The New Earth, The Characteristics of the Dimension We Leave Behind, and so many more. And as usual, it wasn't until they gave me, in the most simplistic way, when I was not paying attention, thinking about something else entirely, they gave me the title right then and there. It became Right Side Up: How to Stand Upright in an Upside Down World. I realized that phase 1 of this book would be creating the alchemy within. The inner alchemy, which is the transmutation of trauma and the things that are holding us back, such as self-sabotage and outside programming. Programming is so very important. Actually, it's all important. Phase 2 would be opening up people to the realities of the physical world, or pulling aside the blinders that have shielded humanity and left them in a place of inaction for too long. Phase 3 would be utilizing these concepts and elevating into our best selves. I read something interesting about Hermes, not the scarf maker, the ancient Egyptian who created the Emerald Tablet, the sacred text written on green stone. He talked about the alchemical process, which some have taken to be about gold, but translator Dr. Matthew Barnes said no, what it really meant was the alchemy within. How do we create the desired alchemy of spinning straw into gold, shedding the programming, understanding what dimensions, vibration, frequency, time zones, time frames, timelines are, honing the perception, removing ego from the equation, removing fear, and more? I didn't think I knew all those answers, but I knew that when they came, they would be part of the collective change. Then comes creating the desired alchemy without, beyond our body, beyond our physical self, beyond you. This includes awakening to the truths of the hidden world and entering the new relationship paradigm, the new business paradigm, and everything else that is part of the plan for a new humanity. Then comes the understanding that will help skyrocket you into higher dimension. Now, this is a special note for you. If at times you feel the information in this book is getting too heavy or too much to understand or too difficult to put into practice, do not worry. This book and these words are frequency-based. Look at how homeopathy works. It is a treatment where the essence of the substance is distilled down thousands of times so to be purely vibrational in nature. When you take the substance, it causes the body to react in a way that eliminates the problem. It goes to work on the specific symptoms, getting down to the root cause as you go from remedy to remedy. This is classical homeopathy, not the kind you find in supermarkets where the remedies are combined, which lessens their effectiveness. Not only do the combinations lessen their effectiveness, they become palliative. They don't get down to the root cause. They just help eliminate symptoms. Classical homeopathy, which is one remedy at a time, will get to the root cause. That is what we're doing here. This book operates in similar fashion. It is pure in its intent. It is distilled down to the essence. Just read the words. Hold the book in your hands. Sleep with it under your pillow or in your bed if you desire. Let it seep into your consciousness. You do not need to take notes unless that helps you process. You only need to read the words. Let the words, your guides, and the universe take care of the rest. Thank you.